What'd you say our papers due?
Or critical evaluation.
Critical evaluation due when? Or you're just asking when it's due?
It's next week.
Week 5, day 2, so September 27th. I feel like I heard somebody say that recently. I think I stole that too. I don't even think I knew that. I don't know dates. I know week 5, day 2.
I'm that person that always knows.
Your next paper is week 7, day 2. If you want to go ahead and write that down. And then the one after that is the planning is due week 10, day 2, and then the census analysis 3, week 11, day 2. Research paper week 12, day 2. What are those dates? I don't know. No idea. No idea the exact date when those things are due. I'm actually kind of curious. I mean, have y'all enjoyed the discussion style format, or those who've had me before in 1301? Do you prefer the PowerPoints?
Discussion.
Like, you like discussion. You've never had me before, but you like discussion. I assume, is that what you said?
I have nothing to compare it to, so yes.
You like discussion. You've had me before. Discussion better than PowerPoints?
Yeah.
Bobby? Yes. Scott? Discussion better than PowerPoints, or PowerPoints better than discussion?
Discussion.
Really? Okay. Joshua?
I'll say this.
Discussion? You don't have to say it because everybody's like, well, if everybody else.
It's been a while since 1301.
Oh, yeah, I guess it has. Yeah, that's true. You're like, literally, Nichols, I don't remember a damn thing that happened. Like, it was, Daniela? You do like this better? Okay. It's hard to tell because I'm up here and because I guess maybe because I'm so, I don't know, what would you say, extroverted? It's so weird because like at home I'm actually, if I had like my preference, what would I do if like I had just all the money? What would I do with my life?
You would go off to an island and do.
I can do that at home. I wouldn't need an island.
Okay.
I mean, I guess, yeah, I would have like a nice, in fact, that's actually probably a good idea. Probably like have a nice place, but I would be inside air conditioning with a giant ass window where I could see my infinity pool that I never swim in, and I could read. Would basically be, I think, yeah, what I would do. And I would read, watch movies, play video games. That's what I would do with like probably my whole life. And maybe if I ever figured out I had something to say, I would try to write something myself. Still, probably, I mean, I'd get most of my joy out of. And so it's been weird because I guess I'm truly at heart in the way I act as I'm an introvert, but I sometimes forget like I'm an extrovert kind of in the classroom. Somehow I've become that. And I guess when talking to friends, I'm very loud, boisterous. But so I wonder like if people who maybe aren't so extroverted, people who don't necessarily want to contribute to class discussion, still enjoy class discussion, even though you're kind of more on like the listening side. But it sounds like people. Well, now, what about people who haven't had me before? Are you liking the discussion too? So it seems like, okay, I'm looking.
Yeah, I haven't had
Trying to check. I figure since you contribute so much, you liked it. That was my assumption. I don't know. Maybe every day, like maybe you get out of this class and you're just like, oh my gosh, it's so. You know, like somebody who's like running, you know, like a cross country runner, and like your parents make you, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. This sucks. I hate this class. I'm always having to talk. But my assumption was it's not like that. It's like you go, oh, I get to talk about stuff. It's fun because that's how I am. So yeah, my assumption is that. What was it? I like the way Conrad put it when talking about a completely different a different context. But he said she talked like thirsty men drink. I feel like that's how I talk. I feel like I talk as though I might run out of words, so I better spend them all now.
You even get tired of your own voice and you're throwing voices in there.
If I had to be honest, I don't think I ever get tired of my own voice. It's actually, Britlit is one of the times where I'm actually the best listener. And I sit and like, sometimes it's such a struggle, but sometimes like they'll talk and they'll make a comment and I go, and I want to say something so bad. Like I need to say something. I have something to say, but I'll just be quiet and then they'll feel like so awkward about quietness that they'll just pick it up and keep talking. And I'm like, it worked.
Yeah, that's a psychological trigger.
It's very hard for me to do it though. It works better because it's in that conference room format, so I'm just sitting at the same level as everybody else. But I feel like if I just came and like sat next to Trey, that would be like the most awkward thing in the world. You know, like I'm just like, all right, guys, I'm centrally located. Let's do this. And Trey's like, please back away. We're too close. We're too close. But that would be the most centrally located spot in the room. Well, I mean, technically where Michael is, but I wouldn't ask him to move, get out and move. So, I mean, I guess we should talk not about this stupid stuff, but literature. I guess. So we talked about things they carry just a little bit. For the most part in the other class, we came to the conclusion that we were sort of annoyed by it. Were you all annoyed by it at all with all the lists? List. Don't know. You seem like you have an opinion, but you don't know exactly what the nature of it is.
Like, I thought so. Like, I know the ending of that. This is the book.
The book.
Yeah.
And see, I don't even know if you can necessarily think of it in that way, because he published the stories separately first, then collected some together for things they carried. And they have the same characters, but it's not necessarily meant to be a novel. They're most meant to stand separately.
Well, the thing is like at the end of the book, it's like the things they brought back with them, and I wish that like I don't know I think I preferred that over like that aspect over what they had, like, because I don't know, it spoke to me more about what they brought back with them than what they had on their end.
Well, I had a thought the other day in the other class, and I wanted to ask, is anybody in here, I mean, if you don't feel comfortable answering, just don't answer, but has anybody in here actually been in the military before? No.
Does being a Navy brat count?
Not really. Because, I mean, I think we really need the experience of somebody who's had to pack a bag up and get in uniform and do something, some set of missions under a leader who tells you what to do, and you all just go do it, and then you come back. Like, I don't know, I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like I get a sense of that's kind of how it works to sort of follow orders, is the way he's talking about it. And you do have to be, I guess, kind of cognizant of, you know, I carry the things that I have to do. I carry the standard issue stuff, but then there are other things that I carry as well. And so maybe the choice that you make between what you do and don't carry, because homes are like not like that at all, right? Maybe my wife considers a home to be like a place where you can't just put everything. But to me, there's so much room for so much stuff. Like, I don't really have to throw away anything. I mean, you know, I could have like an old microwave in the garage if I want that doesn't work anymore, because it's just, I can do that. But you can't carry that in a bag when you're out. I mean, you literally have to make a choice between what matters and what doesn't. And so maybe I could see that speaking more to somebody who'd been in the military. Like, yep, made those decisions, you know. Like, do I really want to go for the, you know, extra bulletproofing? Like, do I need that, or do I feel like safe enough that I can carry, you know, pack of sardines with me in case I just need a flavor burst? Why sardines? I don't know. Probably the worst choice I could have made. Really, anything would have worked better. How about? Nah, I'm looking for something that really shocks the system. Sweethearts or warheads. I don't know. No, those are sweet at first. Something that just Sour Patch Kids. Well, I mean, they do have salt tablets. Maybe instead you just have sweet tarts instead of salt tablets, right? You say like, I'll just do some sweet tarts and then I'll have to drink more water. That's the whole purpose of them, right? You drink the salt tablets so you feel dry and then it makes you drink. Isn't that right?
Why don't you just drink water?
You're supposed to, but like the salt tablets that they take, like they make you suddenly thirsty, so without necessarily overly dehydrating you, so that you think to drink.
Yeah, because you can forget.
Yeah, it's very easy to forget.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
You can remember to drink water, but you can remember to take a pill that makes you thirsty enough to drink water. That's
a good point.
That's true.
I don't know. Never been in the military. So again, like, so the stuff that's in here, like maybe it's not perfect for a guy like me who's not had any experience with it. So, but you know, I think maybe one of the things that I figured out, it doesn't. I mean, this was a much better story to me years ago. Now it's just not as good. How to Tell a True War Story is still good because it's about like the nature of truth, what's true, what's not. When you tell a story about something that happened to you in war, to what degree are you making it up as you're also telling the truth? Is there such a thing as truth? That's an intriguing idea to me. This one right here is just, I feel like there are a lot of what's in here is irony. And I feel like we're so steeped in irony these days. I mean, my daughter lives in memes. I mean, that's where she exists, is inside of memes. Sometimes I'm not even sure if she's talking to me or if she's trying to make a joke. Like sometimes my daughter will like if something will happen in the car, like and I don't know, it's like we were in public. I think with like one of her friends saw us at Walmart just the other day, and she said, "Dad, this is." Oh, it doesn't make any sense if I don't say the name. She has a friend named Alexander Hamilton, like the actual guy, like the real guy. She said, "This is Alexander Hamilton," and I was like, "Wasn't he like a musician or something?" And he says, "No, it's like a musical." And I was like, "No, it's like he like did a thing, like he like is an actor or something, or like wasn't he's like some maybe like no?" And he was like a president, and I was like, "No, wasn't that?" In fact, I can't remember if Alexander Hamilton was a president. I think he was just a guy who was important to our history, but not an actual president.
So important to our history that we can't like recall them.
It was he was the guy that I'm really bad at history. He was the guy that had that like the with the thing with Burr, right? The duel.
Aaron Burr.
He was one of the founding fathers.
And see, my daughter knows everything about him because of that daggone Hamilton musical. But I acted like I'd never heard of it before, and I never knew who Alexander Hamilton was. And then like he founded the Coast Guard. That's cool.
National financial system, the Federalist Party.
So he did some good stuff. I mean, we put him on our money. He's not a president. We put him on our money. Right? He's on the money.
He's on the
10. Right? Okay. At least I know what Billy's on. I remember when they first changed the 10, I thought it just looked like somebody spilled tea on a $10 bill. Oh yeah, they used to look different, the bills. I didn't know if you knew. Fun story, when they first changed the 100s, I think it was, or 20s, cops went to go do an undercover drug deal, and they used new money. And the drug dealers almost had a shootout where they all ended up killing each other because the drug dealers thought they were trying to use fake money for the drug deal. What the hell is this? And they were like, "No, it's real. We just have access to really new money." I mean, what did they say? I can't remember. But the whole point of the story was to say that as we were walking away from her friends, she said something like, it was like, "My face when my dad's a total nerd." And I was like, why would you say my face when? Just make a face. But she like just exists in like the world of memes and says things that are in memes out loud. I feel like people like that don't feel like irony is a neat tool. Like, oh, ironic, We are more like, yeah, irony, I know it, I live it. So when we see Ted Lavender, he cared so much about not dying, like he was very paranoid, and he died. And how did he die? He went to go pee, and he comes back. He's not even carrying all the safety stuff, and gets shot in the head. That's how he dies. And of all the people, the one guy who's paranoid gets shot. Irony. I just feel like it just feels kind of lame to me at this point. Like I feel like irony is so common to us that anytime you use it, you got to be very subtle with it. Because most of what we find, like the ridiculous humor stuff in society, is just like pure irony, like all the time. There's so much irony going on, and I feel like it's one of the things that kids just sort of really get these days. But maybe that's just my personal theory. One more thing that came out of that class before we move into like the new stuff, which is Soldier's Home and Rich Brother. Oh, the Rich Brother's got a lot to talk about. But I ended up having to say, because the other class I could not convince them. Like, remember the change that I came up with, where I said like instead of having the kid be there, not as an innocent, like who's like doesn't know what he's doing, but like the kid has requested to be there. They still were saying, like I tried saying, no, just imagine like he's in a scenario like they're smart kids. We're told that they're very smart people, very wise people. They understand why they do things. These are not a dumb happy people. Like they get what gives them happiness. I said, imagine like, they learn from a young age about their society and how their society works and what it's founded upon. And then the kid he, comes to the decision that I want to be that guy. I want to be the one who, and they were like, oh, so he's brainwashed. And I was like, no. I want you to not imagine. Like, you don't try to rationalize based around what I'm saying. Like, you have to imagine whatever scenario it is in your head that makes you imagine that this kid makes the decision rationally and he's capable of making that decision. That's what your truth needs to be. But see, people still have a difficult time understanding that concept. So I basically, what I ended up having to do, and this is where it gave me a real hard time, was I said, we eventually just got back into a corner, and I was like, okay, this kid is Jesus. This kid is 12-year-old Jesus talking to the learned people in the church. And Jesus, they say, wow, he's so wise for someone so young. But this is like a 10 to 12-year-old kid. But let's just say it literally is Jesus, okay? It's Jesus, and instead of dying on a cross one time and having a really inconvenient 24 hours, or 3 days while he dies on a cross, this time he lives as a child forever. Every once in a while he dies from not being taken care of enough, and then he's rises again as a child and becomes the kid who's in the room again. So he just basically lives the same 4 terrible years over and over and over again for the rest of eternity. I said, in that scenario, could you be a citizen of the city knowing that Jesus is essentially dying for your sins daily in a room somewhere? Because then it's like when people think, oh, the kid's Jesus. Like, it changes things because you can conceive, because it's part of your religion, many of you, you can conceive of a guy who sacrifices everything and has that capability of being almost supernaturally wise to the point that he's capable of making a decision and literally sacrificing himself for that of others. But most of the time we are in Christianity, you go, oh, he died a long time ago. That's 2,000 years ago. He died for the sins of everybody, right? So, I mean, of course, I'm a Christian and I'm benefiting from it. I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have been the one who says, give us Barabbas and, crucify Jesus, the guy who didn't do anything. I would have been that guy. But, I can benefit from the sacrifice that he did make. But if it changed and instead it's a daily sacrifice he's doing from now to eternity, as long as that society survives, could you live in that society where you just know Jesus is in a room somewhere taking it for everybody? Like he's technically already sort of done now. Or would you be like, I gotta leave. I can't live in a society that, but then like maybe even like as you're leaving, Jesus is pleading with you, you don't get it. No, I'm supposed to do this. This is what I'm doing for everyone. Don't leave. That's sin talking or something. And you're like, what? Like, I feel like it's a much harder decision to make if you take, like, essentially the person in your religion who's the one that sacrificed everything, because almost every religion has one, and imagine that that's the one who's sitting in the room. Then suddenly it becomes like, oh, man, would I? Could I daily know that somebody's enduring suffering for me? And then it becomes a much more difficult decision, I think. They seemed like they suddenly just went, like, well, would I? And then basically everybody went, yeah, I think I could. That's Jesus. I was just like, really? I feel like it'd almost make it worse. Because instead of Jesus having to go through like 3 bad days where he dies, in body form at least, now he's just going through terrible, terrible torture for eternity and loneliness and sadness. And I think you have to almost imagine that, I don't know if we want to add this to it. Like, Jesus essentially, like in the Bible version of Jesus, I think what he realized that he fulfilled the prophecy of the Son of God, so that was why he knew he was the Son of God, is because essentially faith made him be the guy. And also the miracle birth thing, but like the virgin birth. But really it was sort of like he realized who he was over the course of his life. Instead of him just like waking up like as a baby and being like, all right, let's do this. It's sort of like, through the just discovering that, oh, I'm the sinless and I do the right thing and I know who I am. I think it changes a little bit if you think that the kid in the room is a kid who thinks he's the Son of God based on what he knows about himself, little different that way. It's probably just easier to imagine if it's like a dude. But
it's like that. There was this girl who swore up and down that Eminem was her father. She was like on television, and she had it like in her head that Eminem was her dad.
oh, so you're saying like it very well just could be possible the person in the room is crazy.
Well,
So that's why I'm saying
it's
don't
not
imagine
saying
that
crazy,
because then it changes
It's
everything.
just it's like if you're told you're something long enough, eventually you might even start to believe it. It's like it's into your head.
Yeah, I don't want you to imagine that scenario. I don't want you to imagine somebody who's not actually the person that you want to be the sacrificial lamb for you. It's got to be like, okay, just think in your head, based on this new information, would you be... Now, if of course you're an atheist, imagine what you need to be in the room in order for it to make sense for you, because, obviously you're like, no, what Jesus? Because that's not going to work for you. But imagine who could be in the room that would actually make you go, oh, okay, well, that person knows what they're doing, and they get it, and this is not a trick. So I think then it becomes a more compelling question. I just feel like Ursula K. Le Guin kind of doesn't give us everything we need to be totally on board with making one of those two decisions. Now, if we get to... What do you want to talk about first? Soldier's Home, Rich Brother. I'm afraid if we talk about... I don't know. Yeah, we'll just see how it goes. What do you want to do? Yawn? Is yawning better?
Like, I didn't
read those.
You what?
To be honest, I didn't read those.
It's going to make that quiz hard.
I know.
Make the quiz really hard.
I want to talk about what I don't want to be that person that just talks like all the time and like I don't want to be overbearing.
He's just joking.
What?
Everything that Oscar said, he's just joking.
What did I say?
Everybody, is she not your savior? Don't y'all want her to? They're all just like, yes, please talk. You think like, oh, I don't want to be overbearing. No, you want to be. They want you all. They all want you to be. Nobody finds you to be overbearing at all.
Everyone will follow suit.
I mean, I could do a hand raise and say, do we do Soldier's Home? Do we do Rich Brother? I don't know if I'd even get hands. People would be like, I don't know, which one should I have read? It should be unfortunate.
I like Soldier's Home.
Soldier's Home, yeah.
Soldier's Home, like I thought it was. Okay. Where did I start? Give me a second. Collecting the thoughts there.
I think you were gonna say. Did that help? Oh, okay. What?
I'm sorry.
Mumbled. Okay, sorry. I took the mumbling for. I have something to say.
He is like really mumbled.
Got football
there. The Soldier's Home, like with Krebs. That was interesting how, like when he was like during the war, he wanted to go home, and he really wanted to be home. And he gets home, he seemed to get used. He got used to that like atmosphere, I guess.
Before
and,
he
like,
got home,
in the
war atmosphere he got used to.
And he got home and then he didn't feel like he belonged. Like when he started lying about stuff because no one was listening, like that was interesting to me because I mean a lot of times when people feel like they don't belong, they do what they can to like try and get their foot in the door, like because so he I don't know, like I found it sad,
No.
and I wondered, like, because there's a big thing about Vietnam veterans when they came home, like, because, let me try this again. It's so choppy. So Krebs came home because he came kind of like after everyone else. He didn't get that big, like, hurrah, you're home. And I kind of made that comparison, except Vietnam veterans were spat at. But anyway, where he didn't really get that either closure or like that was definitely a marker for a lot of veterans, and you hear about that a lot in interviews and stuff, and just listening to big senior military vets talk is about like when they came home, the reaction of when they came home. Like, are you following so far?
Yeah.
Okay, and so I think that contributed a lot to Krebs' behavior. Like, was the fact that no one was really there and like.
Wait, time out. This was World War One.
Yeah. Well, I think she was making the comparison to what Vietnam people were like. It was a little different for them because there wasn't really much of a fanfare. Everybody's sort of already used to the idea that when you come home, which doesn't make any sense. I mean, because everybody was drafted. Huh?
In this one, they're discovering PTSD. In Vietnam, they're.
It's called shell shock.
Here it's called shell shock. But I see what you're saying. Essentially, like, used to everybody came home at the same time. It was war. We all went to the battle. We go to the battle. We come home. And in World War One, there was the battling, and most people came back. But then there was some that stayed, I guess. And so he stays, and I don't know, helps, cleans up, whatever. Does that could just be it too? Just he enjoyed being there and just stayed. I always have thought it's like he enjoyed it as a result of he stuck around and then sort of got used to the idea of finally not being in like wartime. It's kind of like after wartime, so it's like, oh, this is nice. And since he doesn't know the language, it's all nonverbal communication with the girls, and he doesn't have to. I mean, they just went through a whole lot of shit, so. I doubt that the first thing on their mind is, all right, let's get right back to the social intricacies of courting. They're just like, man, I hope I'm alive tomorrow, because that would be a lot to go through. We've never really had any experience like that here in America. The closest was like 9/11. Somebody knocked a couple of our buildings over, and it really affected a lot of what we do here. But I mean, in terms of like having it where people would invade our shores and like make us feel scared in our homes, I don't really think that's something we've ever had to experience. But Krebs coming home in that environment where everybody had already gone back and they got the fanfare, and then he just sort of shows up and he's already gotten used to living somewhere else. He's totally used to it now, and this is kind of, he's sort of, he's in that kind of between place. Like, he doesn't really exist anymore in the world in the way that it exists either here or over there. Like, he's not normal over there, and he's also not normal here.
I feel like there's I have some experience looking into psychology of veterans based on my. I have a family.
Of veterans, okay.
Yeah, my mother would get archive quality oral histories from Vietnam veterans specifically. And something that was very clear in pretty much all of the histories, everyone said it was the clarity of being in the war atmosphere. You know what you have to do. You know what each situation calls for. Like, there's pretty much no question what you're supposed to be doing. But when you get home,
there's what now?
You know your mission.
Yeah. And then, but when they got home, they were kind of lost in because they got used to that. Like you were saying, they got used to that strategy, I guess, like
their purpose had changed.
Yeah.
So whenever before they left, Krebs was in school, and then his purpose changed whenever war started, and then he came back, and all of a sudden his purpose was gone, and he was trying to figure out what it was.
I guess, like, more what I'm trying to say is it's confusing for a lot of the I feel like it was confusing probably for him because I mean, he came home, and then there's bills, he has to take home the house, and, all this stuff, all these intricate things of life, and it's no longer this is this, it's
weird, going from a day-to-day routine doing the exact same thing every day from the minute you wake up to when you go to bed, and then go into this entirely new lifestyle. You don't know what to do because you haven't. You have those years that you spent off in the war were supposed to be the years that you get prepared to deal with life as an adult. So when you come back, you're in a whole different scenario and you have no idea what you're doing. You're, you're new to everything.
That I don't think we know. I think we know that he was at college before. I think that he had fraternity brothers, I think. He may have even already graduated. And then goes to war, comes back. And I don't know exactly how much time passed. I just know he was there a little longer than the others. Not sure about what time. Not the only way, but I don't know. In terms of like the confusion of it all, I feel like we all have a sort of a way that we kind of approach the world like naturally. It's probably ingrained in us by family or experience, but I imagine being in the military and having everything as a purpose, everything as a mission. You do this, you pack this way, we walk this way. There's just not that, and it's almost like playing video games. You know, it's like you get achievements every time you do something. When you kill somebody in like not a military video game, like Battlefield or something, or your kills rack up. You see the numbers go up. You're like, boom, boom, boom. Oh, I'm doing something. I'm accomplishing something. Whereas in real life, you're like, okay, I went and got my insurance paid for today. Yeah, like there's not that reward system. There's not like, I don't know. Even my wife, like we paid off a car. We got it paid off, and she was like, "God, this is so exciting! I want to go celebrate." I was like, "Celebrate? Why?" She's like, "We paid off the car. We did it." I was like, "Yeah." Like I don't know. I didn't get the sense of like achievement that she did. Like almost like we won a trophy. But it makes a lot of sense because when I play like a game like when I used to play, I'm probably gonna start playing again because there's more stuff on it now that I can do. But I played PUBG a lot for like the last 6, 7, 8 months. It's like Fortnite, but for mature people. So I played a lot of PUBG, and PUBG is like essentially you try to survive. Most of the game I would lay down because I'm a terrible shot. But then I would right as I got near the end try to shoot people, and I would die, and I'd be like, "That's okay, I died, but get back up again." But you always see like everything you get feels like you're getting the stuff that you're like, you need this weapon, and you need the better weapon. You got the better weapon. You need the one that's got the suppressor on it. Somebody hears you, got it. And you have scopes, I can see far. Boom, got it. And there's certain things you need. If you don't get them, maybe you don't win. Maybe you do. You got to make sure you get to this location. There's a little circle that you have to get within so you don't die. And you're like, I got in the circle. Boom. Everything feels like an achievement, a line you cross, and a number you get. Whereas I've never really been able to tackle playing Minecraft. The way I play Minecraft, this is what I do every time. I go in there and they're like, what do you get first? You need some wood. Boom. Wood. Boom, 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 boom. Now what? You build a thing that helps you build things. Okay, how do I build that? With wood. Boom. Build a wood thing. All right, now what do you do? Build planks so you can build houses. Boom. Build a house. Build doors. And what I end up doing is having a house and a furnace and some chests with some stuff in it. And I've got room and I've got a bed I can sleep in. And I got diamonds to make diamond pickaxes. And then at that point, I always just stop playing the map and I have to start a new one. Because once the sense of accomplishment goes away and I'm just, I don't know, building a house in a game for fun. Like, I don't... You can do that, but I mean, like, I don't... I felt like the joy of Minecraft is that you're walking around this world where it's sort of like kind of an infinite and random world. And so I interact with it, and once I've done interacting with it, like, I don't really care about the storyline. I don't know, like, it's not a storyline, it's just go kill a dragon, but
it's like Grand Theft Auto once you've been doing all the missions, and you have all this money, like, there's just no point, you just run around killing people.
And that's the same problem I've always had on Grand Theft Auto or Skyrim, is I do, like, these random missions, and then once I've got, what I always do is when I get the most expensive house in the game, in Skyrim, I'm bored. I don't care anymore. Because I'm like, now I have the greatest resource that you can attain in the game, and once I've achieved it, I'm done. That's it. So it's kind of like, I don't know. It's like I feel like I do sympathize with Krebs in that way. It's very confusing. You go from like an environment where everything is like, this is how I was in school. It's like get a grade, numerical marker of success. Go to UIL, boom, you beat everybody, marker of success. Bands, 4th place all state, boom, marker of success. And then I went to college and I was like, they were like, we went band scholarship in college, and I was like, okay, cool. And I went to college and I was like, where's the competitions? They're like, we don't have any. And I was like, and I'm quitting band. Because there's no marker of success. It was like I'm just supposed to play and then have fun doing that and enjoy it. Like I don't know. Like I don't get like I want to just do this for a living and have nobody ever tell me that I'm better than anybody else. Like it didn't. There was no point to me.
So you got a scholarship for band in college, but you quit band.
Yeah. Well, I had to do 1 semester, so I got the full first year scholarship. Man, I hated it. Like there were chair tests, but it was also informal, and like sometimes you'd play first chair, sometimes you play third, sometimes second. It didn't even matter what chair you were because they'd throw you all over the place. And I was just like, I want to know that I'm better than somebody at something. That's all I cared about. And, yes, very, very competitive. But in a sense, like I sort of sympathize with Krebs going from an environment where everything makes sense, everything is ordered, and then there's markers of success, and then everybody knows what that environment's like too. Like you're with other people who are also soldiers who know what that's like, and you can all sympathize. You're all suddenly calling everybody civilians. It's the rule. That's how things work. And then he comes back, and everything's just back to just live life. But like now, none of that seems to matter because you just watch people like tear each other apart and burn down churches, and now you're told, okay, go back home and like. Find a girl, nice little girl, start a family. Like it's like I saw somebody shoot an entire family over there, point blank range. Right, but get your own family, and it's just like you can see how the sense of like what matters in the world would completely change, and you would find it incredibly confusing coming back, having one set of rules to live under, which is everybody like, well, we might die soon. So let's non-verbally communicate that we want to have sex with each other. Let's have sex. The companionship is nice. Can't talk each other's language, speak each other's language. So they just sort of like sat there in companionship. And then he comes back home, and these girls are like, there are certain rules by which you achieve my courtship. And he's like, I don't want to court you. I literally just want to, when I have sex with you, we kind of give each other a knowing glance, and it happens, and then we go our separate ways. That's how I was in Europe. I don't see why I can't be the same way now. No, he's got to go to the, take me on a date. And then like he's like, I like to look at them more than I like to look at the ones in Europe. But I don't have to work to achieve them. That's ridiculous. Why? What's the point? Like he's like, it shouldn't be that way. And so he's just sort of questioning the very nature of the very affluent reality that exists in America when he came back. Because I mean, it does take place, in Oklahoma and Kansas kind of border area. It's the dead center of where everything's going really great. This is pre-Depression. Oklahoma's booming. Everybody's living a plenty. They've got enough of everything. So yeah, girls are walking in, cute little skirts down the street going, because that's all that matters in the world to them. It's not. There's nothing else. And she's like, you got to get a job. You got to get a family. And he's like, those things don't matter. She's like, don't you believe in God? No, I don't. I saw the war. You didn't. I don't believe it anymore. And somebody could tell you, but it's like, it's just something about experiencing it. I can see how somebody would go through an experience like war and be like, yeah, I'm not sure what I believe in anymore. Everything did sort of make sense, but now that I've seen it all, what God would do this or allow this? I can see having those sorts of questions. So the very nature of like all societal norms and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, literally, he's like, you know what? Life had just gotten going easy. And what was easy to him is kind of like chilling, reading when you want to, maybe play a little saxophone, no clarinet. Not really have to do anything, just sort of chill. But mom says, you can't just chill. He's like, shit. Thought that was life for the rest of life. Or I was hoping it would be. Now even Dad's saying, take the car. He's like, did he say that? Well, no, but I really need you to... Don't you love me? No. What? Oh, sorry, I didn't mean it. Because first he was like, I'm not lying anymore. I'm not going to lie anymore. It's too uncomfortable. In the with truth the way it is, and how true it is, and how overwhelming the truth is, and how important it is because of how guilty I felt when I lied, I'm not going to lie anymore. And he says to Mom, no, I don't love you. And she's like, what? And he's like, damn it, this is uncomfortable too. What do I do? Like, I mean, oh, yeah, I don't get a job. I still don't get a sense he's going to get a job. He's probably going to go live in some other city just so he can get away. And, I don't know, be a bartender or work on the docks or something. He's not going to be, like, looking for a family. I don't get the sense of that. He's going to watch Helen play indoor baseball because it's his sister and he's supposed to do that. Later, he'll get to move away because that's the only way to avoid having to have these interactions. Let's make sure we get time to talk about the Rich Brother. We'll switch over to Rich Brother. Rich Brother? What do you think about that one? This was actually the first time I'd ever read that story. I signed it and hadn't read it. But I knew I liked Tobias Wolff. What?
He was like, oh, I hope this is good.
I looked up a summary and was like, yeah, I think there's stuff we could talk about. That's the only reason I picked it. So what do you think we could talk about?
It'd be funny if someone like picks it for their evaluation and you're like
I was like, yeah, sure. Whatever you say. It's all about how well you can convince me, not necessarily about how much I know. I guess I'll talk. Or I guess I could say, who did you find yourself? I mean, because the story's called The Rich Brother, but there's definitely the Rich Brother and the other brother. There's Pete and there's Donald. Did anybody sympathize more with one over the other? Like, did you find yourself more on board with the ideas of one brother as opposed to the other brother?
I was really frustrated with the not rich brother.
The not rich brother?
Yeah.
Unrich brother.
Because I felt like he was using his brother in a lot of ways. And maybe he didn't do it intentionally. But, I mean, obviously when, like, you see you're not doing anything for yourself, and then, like, your family helps you out, you should try to repay them or do something so they won't have to, like, keep paying for you or helping you. So it was frustrating, like, with that. But then I also felt really bad for him. And I didn't know if, when he was saying that Pete would, like, beat him up every day or something, I didn't know if it was true or he was just kind of psycho. Like, I couldn't really tell. So then that made me feel bad for him and think that maybe it wasn't all his fault the way it was. So I don't even know how to feel about him.
I like your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to, like, shape anything yet. I want to see if anybody else has thoughts as well.
$346 minutes later.
I also was frustrated by Donald. He was annoying to me. Like, purely the whole time, actually. I never once felt sorry for him. I found him completely and totally annoying. I thought that he abused that which he was given. His brother's like, here's $100 so I don't have to keep giving you money to give to whatever you need. Like, gives him $100, he's like, that's too much. Goes inside, buys a soda and said, it's my treat. It's not even your money. Taking your brother's money and buying him a soda with it, which you then spill all over his car. and ruin the leather seat, which is probably not on purpose. But I know it was happening. The soda spills in the seat. Pete's like, shoot. And like he reaches over and starts trying to find stuff to like clean it up. He doesn't have anything. He's just putting his hands in soda. And Donald's sitting there with his soda going, he's just standing there. I just know it. He's just, because he doesn't see, like, why would you try to clean it up so fast? What does it matter? Because he doesn't think they would, like, why would you want to protect leather seats, new leather seats? He doesn't see the reason for it. And I decided, I was, like, really kind of pissed off at Pete at the end for turning around. I was like, why are you turning around? And the only reason he turned around, though, is because his wife was like, he gets home and she's like, where's Donald? Shut up, that's where Donald is. No, what'd you do? Go get your brother. And he has to turn around and get the brothers. That's the whole reason. Not the whole reason, but I just feel like there are people who work hard for things. And he's like, you don't because what happens with the $100 too is he gives them that $100, essentially says, anytime you need to go buy something while we're on this trip, go buy it. Dude gets in the car, of course, Donald meets a hitchhiker. And the guy says, where are y'all headed? And he says, we're going to Santa Cruz. He's like, oh, that's where I'm going. And Pete's like, oh yeah? Really? Of course. Yeah, hop in the car. And so the guy hops in the car. First thing the guy does in the car when he gets in Pete's car, the hitchhiker they pick up, lights a cigar and starts smoking with the windows closed. Brand new car with leather seats. He's like, put that out. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. And he throws it out the window. And I was like, why did he throw a whole cigar out the window? So weird. What, in the car with the...
Like, all that, I don't know, like, it smells so noxious to me.
Well, I guess when it was written, probably in like the 80s, 90s, I can't remember, maybe 74 or something like that. It was, people were smoking in restaurants, people were smoking everywhere. So I can kind of get how that would, but still, I would find it, we're supposed to think that, yeah, that's kind of annoying. Somebody smoking in your car without even asking. So he's like, put it out. Huh? What made him want? Well, Pete was like, I think Pete thought, oh, we found a character. And like the guy starts talking, he's like, yeah, everybody in my family's sick. They're sick. And like he eventually says like he comes from another country, like he was living there for a while, he's an engineer. But he was living there because they wanted him to find something in tungsten. He said they told me to look for tungsten in this country that we were in. I can't remember the name of the country. What was it? Remember? Peru, yeah. I'm gonna go with that. That sounds great. It sounds absolutely correct. So like they say, yeah, we're gonna go to Peru and like I'm gonna look for tungsten for the government. And he says I didn't find tungsten, and then he says, but I did find something. And then Pete's like, let me guess, gold. And Donald keeps giving these looks. He's like, and the guy's like, yes, it is gold. And at that point, Pete's just like, so this guy's just selling a bill of goods. What he wants to do is he wants to somehow invest in his, trip to go back and get that gold. It's like the old, like, what was the African prince email? Yeah, Nigerian prince email, where it says like, oh, I need access to funds, but I can't do it. I need you to make a deposit for me on this, and send me the money, and then you deposit $2,000 for me, and then I'll deposit $5,000 or $10,000 for you. And you're like, what a great deal. If you're a moron. And it turns out Donald's a moron. He is, because he said, I need you to pay the man. I can't remember who he's supposed to pay. He's like, pay for the gas. He's like, you need to pay the guy for the gas because this is your trip. And he says, Pete, I can't. What do you mean? I can't pay the money. Oh my gosh. And he's like, all right, here, take that. And he pays the gas station. And he said, please don't tell me you gave that guy all that money. He's like, no, I didn't give it to him. I wanted a share. A share? In the gold thing. He's like, dude, that was not real. That's not a real story. There's no way you actually believe that. And he's just like, what? Like, he just seems like and I'm just like, what? I wanted to punch my fist through the book and hit Donald. Like, that's all I wanted to do, because he was so dumb and careless, and it's like there's no way Pete actually did those things when they were little. There's no way. There's no way that Pete did those things to him. There's no way that he, tied him down to the bed and, punched him in his stitches. That's got to be something he's just remembering wrong. Because he felt like Pete always looked down on him. I'm sure he did that. Because Donald was always just a little punk who just, I don't think, lives in the clouds or something. I mean, the kid doesn't exist in the real world, which is so weird because I consider myself to be sort of an idealist. And my wife is like, you live in the clouds too much. And all I wanted to do was beat the crap out of Donald. Like, listen, quit spending people's money. Quit taking advantage of people. Like, just be responsible or, like, care that somebody's doing something for you. Like, he doesn't even care. Pete gives him $100 and he instantly thinks, now this $100 is mine. He doesn't think of it as Pete's anymore. He doesn't think of money as being earned. He's like, $100, like, that's what, a day's pay or more. Like, but he doesn't view it that way. He views it as like, money's just money. But that's come from somebody who doesn't work and never has had to. They don't see money as money. I don't know. It just really pissed me off. It made me feel like an old fart. Like, who doesn't give a crap about anybody else. Who just cares about... Now, I would never do what Pete did. I would never go out and buy another car because I just no longer preferred the one I had. I'm not that kind of person. I will drive the wheels off a car. I want to be rusting into the... I mean, it's going to be dead before I ever go get a new car. Like, we're going to have a difficult couple of days where we have one car. And, you know, it's my wife, and I'm just having to drop her off at work, and I'm taking the car up to work, you know, until we figure out what used car we're going to buy to replace the one that we had. I'm not the kind of person who's going to lease a car or buy a new car and then trade it in a couple of years later and get another new car. I'm not that kind of person. But, yeah.
I'd like to, like, maybe, so you were talking about you're going to drive the wheels off the car.
Yeah.
And maybe you can't relate with cars, but maybe you can relate as far as computers.
I don't know. My dad always told me that there's no point in spending a lot of money on computers because they only last 2 or 3 years before they give out.
That's if you don't buy good computers.
That's true, but you're also spending $600-$700 on it.
This is my whole life. This is everything I do. This is grading. This is every class I have. This is every lesson I have.
How much was that laptop? What's the $200 for that?
$1,699.
$1,600.
Or I could go to Walmart and have to worry about replacing a computer, changing all the settings, getting all the stuff downloaded. I could do that once a year with an Acer. Those things suck. It's about where you put value. So I'm sure you all have places in your life where you consider something to be valuable, and you will spend a lot of money on that thing. Like you say, like a lot of people say, like, don't go cheap on blank. I tend to go cheap, relatively cheap, not super cheap, but relatively cheap on cars. To me, I kind of agree with my dad on those things where it's like, as long as it's got super cold air and it runs and you're not having to put oil in it constantly or constantly refill some fluid because it's, you know, the engine's bad. I mean, that's generally what you look for. I mean, I'm not, if the cup holder situation's not great, I don't really care that much. I mean, I do have some, I've got to have power windows. I got to be able to hook up an iPhone to it so I can listen to something. You know, I'm not going to drive like just a complete clunker, but mostly it's a thing that gets you from point A to point B. My wife needs the car to be nice. To be nice, clean, and not smell like anything. But my wife would never spend money on a computer. Like, it drives her nuts that I do. But that computer lasts me 4 years. And it's important for me, like, you know how computers get slow after a while? They start kind of crawling? Mine don't. My computer right there, the other one, it was not slow. That's not why I bought another one. I bought another one because every computer I've ever had past the point of 4 years, about 6 months afterwards, at some point, something breaks inside. And I don't have the time to spend for having a week without a computer where I'm having to get a USB drive and plug it into the computer so I can, when I've got random things I might want to show you all in class and renders I've got to do, and I'll be like, sorry, there's just no videos for a week. Well, that drives me insane. Like, I can't even think about the possibility. Do I have like a really nice set of tools at home? I got whatever was at Walmart for like $20. That's what I've got. The hex set.
Screwdriver and
Huh?
Screwdriver and
Actually, it's really useful. I do have a power drill. We didn't even buy that. My wife won it. So we have that, but we have like it's like a ratchet set you can buy at Walmart. It's like, it's got a handle. You open it up and it's got like all the different like millimeters and inch sizes. That's been really useful to have. But I don't spend a lot of money on it. I don't buy like really nice like Cobalt tools or go to Lowe's and buy tools. I mean, I buy a thing here and there when I need one. But I don't go and buy really nice things like that because that's not what I value in life. Whereas my wife's dad, like, he built himself a shop. He's got like all these tools. So we have the thing that we feel like is the area in which we provide our respect. I mean, a lot of people spend a lot of money on clothes. I don't. I buy the same pair of jeans, same shirt, in 5 different colors. I wear the same thing all the time. I go cheap on t-shirts, clothing. I go pretty cheap on food. Not super expensive on food. I cannot go to a place where you spend like $80 on a meal for like yourself. Like, I will not go to like, if a girl's like, well, you gotta treat me. It's like, no, you're too much trouble. You're more trouble than you're worth if you want an $80 meal for yourself. It's ridiculous. Like, what else translates to that taste? And I'm not saying if you like those kind of meals that you're bad. I'm just saying we all find value somewhere else. Like, what do you find value in?
polycarb.
You have a nice truck?
No, I would Camry.
Camry? Oh, it's a Camry car. Okay. But you'll spend like decent money on a car to make sure you get like all this stuff. Like once you.
Oh yeah, good tires. Make sure you get your, good oil change. Make sure it lasts. We do synthetic oils that last 5,000 miles. You just keep up with it. You spend more money on the car, keeping it up.
Now, what do you go cheap on that you really don't put a lot of money into at all?
Probably shoes. Just because, I mean, they're made to protect your feet. They're not, I don't feel the need to spend $60 on Nike shoes.
I used to feel the same way, and then I've had a pair of boots given to me.
Well, I wear boots.
All of my opinions change.
I live on a farm, and those are really helpful when there's snakes.
I wouldn't even know. I wear those. I wear them every. I think I might have broke something when I just did this. Here's hoping that was just a slight overstretching and not like a pulling. But I wear boots, and I didn't used to wear boots, but they were the only shoes that wouldn't fall apart, and they don't fall apart. And so I used to constantly buy a pair of old man Nikes. We're getting off track. I'm just talking about literally everything I buy. But I mean, the idea is that Pete has certain things that he respects. Not the things that I respect, but I still understand that there are things that I do respect. Like my wife and my daughter, I mean, we don't really talk about this rule. We don't say it out loud. But they're not allowed to touch my computer. Nobody respects a computer as much as I do. I mean, yeah, I put it in a backpack and like it probably will end up getting kind of scratched up on the outside, but I treat technology with respect, and most people don't. They throw it around, toss it around. Same with a phone. I generally don't let anybody touch my phone because people drop phones and they break. Now, I do this thing where every night to make sure that I grade, I go and plug it in the bedroom because I figured out, by the way, it's genius. If you ever like need to get work done, go plug your phone up in another room and then sit and do your work. Every like moment you'll be like, oh, I don't have it. you get distracted. I need to look that up. Oh, and it's a lot easier to get work done. Like I became so productive after I started doing that. I just plug it up in the kitchen or the bedroom, depending, and it works so well. But I take very good care of technology because I understand how important it is to my way of life. Huh?
And how expensive it is.
Yeah, and so I would expect like I don't even my cute little, my wife is like hands her phone to our 1-year-old daughter sometimes so she can look at things. I don't even let 1-year-old daughter touch it for a second Like, I won't let her hold on to it for a second. Anything could happen, and like she could go and toss it, and it would land like on a corner of something like this. Whoop! Screen shatters despite all of my abilities to protect it. And it's just not worth that cost. She shouldn't be messing with technology anyway. She should be young, right? But yeah, I mean, it very well could be that it has nothing to do with money. For me, it's just when people have a complete lack of respect for what other people find important, they don't think outside themselves. Maybe that's what I have a real issue with. I mean, do y'all have an issue with that when people don't respect the opinions and thoughts of others?
I've had experience with people like just plain disrespecting my boundaries and stuff, and I'm like, get away from me, like, and it like not physical, but like there's just certain things that I'll talk about. Now they seem perfectly normal things to other people, but I'm like, no, I'm not talking about that. And then it's just like things like that, and even when I see other people, like I see all the time in younger, like young teenagers, they hit each other a lot. Like they, kind of shove, and the other will say, "Oh, stop that," and they don't. It's like, and the person who said, "Oh, stop that," like doesn't say anything, and so it's, I don't know. I find that those boundaries very. There's a point for that. For a second.
No, I understand. Like, and having a lack of respect for those sorts of. I mean, I don't clarify my boundaries, but as a teacher, like there's some teachers that are very like, touchy-feely type of teachers. I'm just not that way. I don't mean like touchy-feely like that. Huh? If that. Like, if you put your fist out, I might bump it back. But I'll probably try to see if I can get away with ignoring, like I didn't see it. Like, you're like, hey, and I'm just like, and you're just like, oh, he didn't see. It's okay. It's cool. I will always say hi back, but like, guess how many times I've hugged a student?
Once.
Oh, that's accurate, yeah. One time I hugged a student, they were going through a personal, very rough time. It was like their whole world was being rocked by something, and they spent like 2 hours talking about it, and they started getting really worked up. I said, man, you just need a hug, because I could just tell they were so alone, and so they were like, yeah, and so I gave them a hug. And that's the only time. I'm not one of those people who, with the exception of my wife, like I'm not one of those people who I will like, laugh and like there's some people who they'll laugh at something, they go, and they'll like put their fist on like somebody's shoulder next to them, like, like I don't do that. Like I'm not sure how I would survive in the game Big Brother if I was ever to play, because they're always like touching each other and hanging on each other, laying on each other's like laps and stuff. Even like the dudes, like who aren't gay, just laying on each other. I'm not that kind of person. I don't lay on anybody. I don't touch anybody. But I can hit boundaries. Like I would expect people to respect that, and not just constantly like be in my space, or like constantly like not want to talk. I mean, I think it's very important we all respect each other's boundaries of any kind, or like what it is that we find important. Like, I mean, there's some people here that I think it's possible they're so introverted that I don't say hi to them. Like I kind of go, or like like a little, or like that. But like if we make eye contact. But I'm afraid, like, oh, they're so introverted, they don't really, like, want to say hi, because they always seem like they walk like this, like, to get away, and so I'm like, I'm just going to stay back from that then. I literally, like, maybe over-consider everybody's thoughts and what they find important, and I will try to respect that. But, like, Donald doesn't do that at all, and it really pisses me off. Like, maybe it's because it's his family, too, and, like, in my family is very important. We all care about what each other. Is family important to like most people in the room? I assume it's very, very important to some people. I don't live in a family like where we call each other all the time on the phone. Like some people like call their moms like once a day. I don't do that. I mean, like when I see them at church, we all kind of hey, and we talk, and we can't stop talking until we separate. But it's not like I still consider family to be incredibly important to life and happiness and well-being. And for Donald to act like his brother isn't a brother, he's just somebody to take advantage of like anybody else, really kind of pisses me off. And I don't even necessarily think that, I was thinking y'all would all take it to this other level. We only have 2 minutes left to talk about this, so y'all can't get too pissed off about it. I thought you were going to take it to like like a Republican versus Democrat, or like conservative versus liberal kind of view. Because I mean, Pete very much is written as though he's like a conservative dude. He works hard for what he has. He like respects the things that he has. He's done a lot of work to make sure he's in the position that he's in life. Donald seems more like the liberal type, where he's. I'm not saying all liberals are like this, but he very much seems like ideas are what matters to him. Money doesn't seem to matter to him at all. Possessions. But at the same time, he has a different problem where he just doesn't respect the ideas of his brother at all. Pete seems to, in some ways, respect Donald's, but I don't truly feel this, because I feel like I'm kind of more of like a moderate area, and I felt like I absolutely hated Donald and everything that he was, and kind of more or less approved of Pete and felt like I was him. But I don't share the exact same views as Pete, nor do I share the exact same views as Donald's. It was very hard for me to find a place. Like, I mean, I was very much struggling with the fact that I absolutely thought Pete was the one in the right all the time. Pete or Donald? Donald says, "You punched me in my stitches," and it's almost like that's like the symbolism, but I feel like that's something he made up. It didn't even sound real to me. Pete's like, I don't know, I may have done that. I don't remember if we were kids.
What would be the point?
Pete has these weird, or Donald has these weird delusions. He suddenly just decides, now I'm religious. And now he goes and like joins some church in the wilderness somewhere. And I mean, Pete is prone to flights of fancy where he just completely changes his idea about everything. So I mean, I felt like that story was not outside the realm of possibility for him.
The way Pete answered him was what made me
think he might have actually done it.
Yeah. He didn't completely deny it. Like at first he did. He was like, I didn't do that. But then when he would say it again, he said it was like, I think he said it was like kid stuff. Kind of like validating that. That's what I understood.
And see, me, I read it differently, but maybe I'm reading it from the bias of a big brother. Or like, as a big brother, yeah, I was rude to my little brother all the time. Do I remember every single time I was rude to him? No. Like, I can't remember probably most of them. And so Donald's like, you were mean to me and you punched me in the stitches. And I was like, I know I never punched my brother in the stitches. But if he was to say, like, you did this thing to me one time, what is it really going to serve by arguing with him? And I feel like arguing with Donald, too, is like arguing with a brick wall. No matter what you say, he's not going to get what you're saying. Because he lives inside his head, and his thoughts to him are real until they change to something completely different. So there's really no point in arguing with a guy like Donald. And I feel like when he says, I don't know, we were kids, maybe if he denied it, he would say, no, you did, and it would turn into a fight. And he's like, I'm not going to do this thing with you, Donald. Like, I'm so tired of it. So he doesn't want to like make it worse than it already could be. That's what I got out of it. But that's from the perspective of a guy who has been a big brother, and maybe I'm biased in favor of Pete as a result. I don't know. But yeah, we can get out of here. I want to talk about Soldier's Home first, because I find it. Maybe I don't find it less interesting. I mean, some people probably preferred it.
Oh no, I found it less.
They might prefer Soldier's Home to Rich Brother. No? Everybody prefer Rich Brother to Soldier's Home? Almost every. Okay. Over time, like, I mean, I used to do Soldier's Home, and almost everybody would write their essay about it, because it was like the only story people enjoyed in the whole semester. Which I thought it was very weird. Yeah, I noticed. No, it was all different readings. Well, we didn't have no O'Malus, no Rich Brother, no. We had Good Man Is Hard to Find. We didn't have The Lottery.
See, but a Good Man Is Hard to Find. Yeah, I like that one a lot.
Like this semester, we've had Good Man Is Hard, or we still had Rose for Emily, Good Man Is Hard to Find, Battle Royal, Soldier's Home, and Lady with a Pet Dog. Those are the only similar ones from last semester.
My preferences are really specific. I just enjoy really dark things.
I think Soldier's Home is pretty dark. I mean, I guess when you tell your mom, I don't believe in God and I don't love you, that's pretty dark stuff.
Well, like,
Too much.
in a
Too
good man,
much.
it's hard to find. He murders an entire family.
Which one?
A good man, it's hard to find.
Oh yeah. Oh, that kind of darkness. Okay. Because I was like,
But, like, I just like it. I'm not gonna be a murderer, I promise.
I wasn't worried about that until you said
People
that.
are. Well, when I start to talk about it, like, even my friends and family are like, I feel like they're gonna grow up to be a psychopath.
I'm saying because all I do is watch like crazy documentaries.
Right,
and stuff like
same.
that.
I know,
Yeah.
like,
I'm with you.
and like I know I have all this information like in my brain about like I'm like, why do you know that? Why do you want to know that? And I'm just like, it's just what was interesting. It's just me. Quite hilarious.
Well, I'm thinking about how I can possibly relate this to the stories, but I think I figured it out. So I feel like maybe the reason maybe there's still some value in Soldier's Home is that all the things they cared about was how they carry stuff while they're there, but we never get to see what they're like, any of them, at home. Whereas Soldier's Home, we see nothing about what it's like in the war. We only see what it's like when he comes back.
That's literally what I said like 5 minutes ago when you couldn't hear me.
Oh, okay, that's what he said. So it still does have value. I feel maybe while I mean, after this time, since I now have this other story in here too, The Rich Brother, which I'd never read before this semester, but I read it. I kind of liked it. I mean, it has more to talk about.
Oh.
But Soldier's Home, I don't know, man. I don't know.
I feel like Rich Brother gives you more to think about, like different aspects and ideas, and then Soldier's Home is just like straightforward, kind of one idea throughout the whole thing.
I don't know. We'll talk about what y'all want to talk about. We don't have to necessarily skip Soldier's Home, but maybe we'll just force it in the very last few minutes. Y'all seem like y'all want to talk more about Rich Brother anyway. So what do you want to talk about with Rich Brother? What was better about it? I mean, whatever direction you want to take it, and then I'll see if I need to temper it.
I honestly couldn't tell who wanted to kill each other. At first, it kind of seemed like Donald wanted to kill him, and then it kind of seemed like Pete wanted to kill Donald.
Yeah, that was the dog.
And if you read the aftermath, he actually changed. Like later, he made an altercation to it that's not in this version, where Pete like moves forward with Donald instead of just like backing out or whatever. But did you read that?
Moves forward with him? How do you mean moves forward?
I just got it right there.
Yeah, I did not read the afterward stuff. Yes.
What page is that?
326.
Dang.
Yes.
What's the page number?
326.
So in the end.
Hey guys, what's the page number?
326. Yeah.
We all laughed like one after the other. I just thought it was fun. Okay, I'm sorry.
So on page 338, he says, "That's it," and he drops warning or whatever, and it sounds like he's fixing to like just murder him. Yeah. But if you read it later, it says how he changes it. It says he changes it to it goes with "That's it," Pete said, and took a step toward Donald. He actually changes it to that later. So it kind of sounds like in the end he actually makes Pete murder Donald instead. Which I mean,
Which would make more sense.
yeah, because
like,
Donald's
where's your
kind of
brother?
a shit brother.
Yeah. And
So where did they add it? Paragraph 260, so 264, 263, 262, 261, 260. So he says, "That's it."
Yeah.
He drops one knee, searching the patio with his hands. He didn't know what he was looking for. His hands would know when they found it.
Take off the last two sentences. It says in paragraph 260, he deletes the last two sentences and adds instead and took a step toward Donald.
it would make more sense in the story.
Yeah.
Because
Because it's all talking about how he was super frustrated. with
Delete the
Donald.
last two sentences.
and
That's
then
it.
And thinking about the text,
Said.
it's questionable.
"That's it," Pete said, and took a step toward Donald.
Like that really sounds like he's gonna get pretty aggressive.
It almost sounds like to me, like, when I first drove that, I was like, what is he looking for in the dirt? What could you possibly find there? A rock?
That's what I was in.
And I was like, but if he's searching in the dirt, I mean, it's not like, you'd have to dig with your hands to find anything big enough to do any damage. But I could totally see it being like a action, like a big brother takes against a little brother, where he's just like rummaging in the dirt till he finds the first rock he finds and then just throws it at him.
I mean, because it
Feel
also talks about how he used to punch him.
Yeah.
Again, sounds cool and cool.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that happened.
I don't know. That's what I was getting. I feel like Donald's just a little bit of a liar, or a lot of bit of a liar.
I don't know. See, I might see this story different than a lot of people because I don't take a lot of this stuff at face value. So I actually like the change better and took a step toward Donald. Like, he's just being like the forceful brother there. Whereas before he's like digging in the dirt and I'm like, the hell is he doing? And people say they like the ambiguity. I didn't. I was like, he does, nothing comes of it. Like, he doesn't pick anything out of the dirt. He just kind of and then gets up. Well, it doesn't make any sense for Pete either. He doesn't even like getting dirty.
I think I like the change more.
Like, to think that Pete at that point would be okay with having dirt underneath his fingernails packed and caked in there. I just don't see that being Pete.
Apparently, some readers saw that as an enigmatic.
Well, they said it was the removal. I think it was what it said of an enigmatic action.
Well, that's why they were disappointed because he takes it out, and it was supposed to add mystery and complexity.
I feel like one minor decision like that doesn't. I feel like what he's trying to do is take away that idea that some people had where they were thinking, oh, this is a parable and he wants to kill his brother and he almost did and then he drove off. So they thought it was like a murder that just almost happened. And I was looking at that going, Pete would never throw away everything he had then murder Donald. He's just pissed. And so I kind of was like, I didn't understand that dirt pump. I was like, what was he looking for? A rock to hit him with? No, it doesn't make any sense. Because that was actually one of the parts of the story where I was kind of like, I don't really get this. To me, it didn't sound like he would ever hit him. In fact, to me, it sounded like when Donald was telling the whole story about the way when his little came and punched him in the stitches. I know it's a weird thing, like, we all want to think that when somebody hasn't done a thing, that they'll categorically deny it, and they'll just, like, shout about how they didn't do it. But I've watched, like, a lot of Big Brother whenever it's on, the reality TV show. And something that really screwed a guy over this season was there was a vote that somebody voted, like, what do you call, like, you know, everybody votes to send somebody out of the house. And there was a vote that didn't go right. One had, like, it was supposed to be, like, 6-0, and it went 5-1. And everybody's like, who voted that extra vote for the wrong person? And one guy took the blame for it. He said, it was me. You know, I'm the one who did it. Another guy was like, no, I did. That was my ally. Or no, he didn't even say that. What he did was the other guy said, it's me. And he knew at that point that guy was lying because he was the one that did the vote. So he's like, this is ridiculous. This is stupid. You guys are dumb. I see what you're trying to do. But he acted like all suave and cool and collected. And what people expect somebody to do when they're telling the truth is to get mad about it and shout about it. But that's not always the way it works. Like, usually if somebody's overly passionate about yelling about how, like, right they are, or like, I didn't lie, like, that to me is like a desperate move. And like, that's somebody trying to convince people because they aren't really. But with a guy who seems kind of incredulous about, like, when he says, you used to punch me in the stitches, you did. And he's like, I don't, kids do weird things. Like, I might have. Like, he just seems like he doesn't remember and he doesn't think he did it, but maybe it's possible. That to me, but Donald was so insistent all the time that you did this, you were mean to me. And he was like, we were kids. Like, I have no idea what I did. Because he honestly doesn't remember. He's not going to say, I did not do that, because he doesn't know. But it doesn't, either way, I mean, Donald seems to have a hell of a lot of passion about it. And I don't necessarily think that he's lying. I think it's possible over time he convinced himself that that's the way Pete really was. And all Pete really is, and has always been, is more interested in getting what he wants done. And he thinks of himself first before he thinks of everybody else. And Donald's kind of the opposite. He thinks about everybody else before he even thinks about himself. And so the things he does himself don't even often make sense. And so that's why I felt like when Donald told that story, he seems so desperate that it be real that it's almost like he's trying to convince himself to me. But I don't know to what degree, and I don't know about. And I could be completely biased in this because I'm a big brother who's relatively successful, and I care about the things that I have, and I care about different stuff. Like, to this computer is very, very important. I just bought a new one, and so nobody gets to touch it at home. Nobody will touch this. And if ever somebody was to, like, use my, like, say, like, when students try to come and say, let me just show you real quick. And sometimes I'll let students, if they look like they're clean enough, type their, like, stuff on my computer so I can see what they're seeing. But if it's somebody who, like, I've seen eating chips in my classroom, like, I'm not letting you come over with chip hands and type on my keyboard. Like, it's just not going to happen. Because I care very much about the things that I have, and I take care of them, especially when it comes to technology stuff. Now, like blankets and clothes, I'll toss those around my house, and like don't care much about that. And my car, actually, the Mustang that I have as my wife, I mean, there's trash all on the floor of it, because cars to me aren't as valuable as like computers. But I do have the things that I work hard for, that literally I think of things in terms of money, like this cost me this much of work today. If like Donald like takes that $100 and he goes and just blows it on that guy, he says, just you take this because it's too much trouble for me to keep giving you money, so just take this. And he just gives it to some guy with a crap story. And he doesn't realize that the money he's giving, or he doesn't care. He doesn't care that the money he's just giving away costs somebody a lot of work. He doesn't think of money in terms of what it actually is. And I'm sure that I was probably more like Donald when I was a kid, right? I feel like when I was 18, 19 in college, I probably was a lot more like Donald, where I was like, flighty and like, oh, ideas and like, but I'm not the kind of person who's going to go and like join a weird church somewhere that somebody started in the woods. Oh, my favorite part was like the little survey. Yeah. Did you see the little multiple choice? Did you feel like, I don't even remember the words. It was so good. It was sounded like so real.
It was like just a pamphlet.
It gave you no choice. It was like a Trump poll or something.
Becoming, none of the above, all of the above.
So what did you feel during the liturgy? Being, becoming, and becoming, none of the above, all of the above. So you're obviously like supposed to pick being and becoming. But then it makes no sense. Why is there an all of the above?
I know.
I felt all of it and none of it at the same time.
Yeah, right.
It reminded me of one of those, like, have y'all seen like the polls, like the presidential polls in the White House since like Trump has been there? Like it says, what type of job would you say the president is doing? And it said great, good, or other. Like there was no bad. Like they just removed it as a choice. So they could report that when people did the poll online, they said like 35% say that the president's doing a good job. It's like you didn't have you didn't have all the options. I just was like, that's kind of ridiculous. So it felt like that to me. It was like our church is functioning exactly the way we want it to. Like, well, can I write something in how I really feel? No. Now you have these choices: being, becoming, and that's it. And I was just like, that is so typical. But I can see Donald joining a church like that. Where like he's like this new thing and it's weird and it's in the woods. I'm part of it. I never would have done anything like that.
Donald or he?
Huh?
You see Donald?
Donald is the one who joined that weird church. Yeah, the younger brother. I don't know if he's younger actually. Do they say?
I don't think they say.
I don't think
They just say there's the rich brother and the non-rich brother.
Yeah.
And I always think that the rich brother's older.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
it says he's the older brother.
Oh, it does. Okay, good. Okay, I'm glad that's
Now,
established.
it says something, and I can't
I don't even think they would have to. I think that if he never said it, we would still think. Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
one
but
part.
I don't even remember that part of the book. I just automatically assumed he's the younger brother.
It's like one of those expletive things. Like Ellen, I watched this video the other day. Ellen DeGeneres like has a video on YouTube, and it was like, what did you say?
I love it.
Okay, she's a great lady. I think she's like almost 60 or something too.
No
She looks
way.
amazing. But apparently her grandmother was the same way, like her great grandma or
What
something.
made me think that Donald was trying to be
Yeah.
because it basically almost references him, but in a theoretical way. So on page 333, paragraph 130, like the last sentence, it says, if he got killed on the road, it would be by some spiritual person in a sweatsuit, someone with his eyes on the far horizon, and a wet Try God t-shirt in his double bag.
Yeah, no, I got that.
That's Donald. Like,
But I mean, it says like the paragraph. It says Pete still had it in his mind to brush him off, but he didn't do that. Instead, he unlocked the door for me. He wanted to see what would happen. It was an adventure, but not a danger. The man might still. So we're inside Pete's head in third person. Like it's not giving us like his first person thoughts, but it's essentially giving us his thoughts in third person. He's essentially. I mean, if my brother were super irresponsible, I imagine I would say. I'm not going to get killed by some guy we pick up on the side of the road. If I get killed, it's going to be my irresponsible brother as the result of my death. Like, either my heart will break or I will, like, have a heart attack, like, from getting so pissed at him. Like, that's what's going to kill me.
how they reference, like, every aspect of Donald without actually saying that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. It's just like, it's Donald. I mean, it's like, you say, with a Try God T-shirt. I mean, there's no room for like interpretation there. He's like Donald will be the. I think it's like more that like that cliche.
Mhm.
Donald will be the death of me. I think is essentially what he's saying there. Not some dude on the side of the road, and it's sad too. Like, okay. Does anybody in here like? Did you identify more with Donald?
No. I identified more with
Kind
Pete.
of, yeah.
Kind of. I mean, I see my brother. He's got his heart in the
Oh
right
no,
place.
not did you like Donald more, but did you identify as a person personally with
I
Donald?
identified with Pete.
So you feel like you are more Donald than you are Pete?
Yeah, in certain ways though. I think Donald takes it to an extreme, you know. I think he is very obsessionate about becoming someone and having something and, you know, being kind of like straightforward. And on the other side, or on the other hand, no, that's beautiful, sorry. Donald, on the other hand, he's more like, oh, well, you know, very kind of like, I'll do whatever. Like, I'll join this, I'll do that.
So you're kind of more like the oh well kind of person,
No,
or
I'm kind of like the.
oh, so you are more like Pete. You're like the rich brother.
Kind of.
More so, you feel like
Not
inside.
the extreme, though, but
No,
I
no,
do
no.
like to, you know,
So in a
focus on
way,
things, getting things done.
if I was the older sibling, I would be Pete. But in real life, I'm the younger sibling, and I'm more like Donald. And my brother has all this ambition, and he's super successful because he's a genius, and he's like, Gabby, this is what you need to do, and he's like trying to push me and everything. And I already have my plan. Like, he just doesn't want my plan to be my plan.
It sounds to me like you're more like Donald by comparison, not Donald in reality. I think if you were in any other family, you would be the
I would do Pete. Right,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think you're more like by virtue of situation. Because I mean, you're often like it almost feels like sometimes like you're the Pete of the room, you know? Like, because I mean, it's essentially like to me what I identify as Pete is essentially a person who believes that there are rules and that there is decorum and that there's a way that you're supposed to act and that you have to be considerate of others and care what their thoughts are, and that Donald doesn't give a shit about any of that. Not at all. I mean, he's like, literally, I mean, like, the degree to which it disconnect, I could not believe it. Like, I could not believe it. He gives him $100 and he says, no, I can't take this. That's too much. I just don't want to keep giving. No, that actually didn't bother me as much. No, it bothered me. I knew he was probably going to do it, though. What really bothered me was he gives him $100. What's the first thing he does with that $100? He goes, pays off what he's supposed to, but then what? He goes and buys 2 sodas. Didn't ask Pete if he wants a soda. He's like, here, actually orange soda. My treat.
And it's not.
I literally, maybe it's because I'm so like, I identify with Pete more, and maybe the story makes me biased and I see things that aren't here. But to me, I hear him say my treat. I don't think it's sarcastic. I don't think he's like, my treat. I think he's like, my treat. And he just means it. Because it's his money now. You gave it to him 30 seconds ago, and now it's his money.
Like, I do that on purpose to piss people off. Like, when my boyfriend gives me money, that's what I do. I do it to piss him off.
Well, but that's not what Donald's doing.
He thinks he's in the right. No, but yeah, no, it just pisses me off.
Well, I get, like, but it's to him, I wish we lived in a world that was like this,
Basically,
honestly.
he's trying to
Where
say
money
something.
literally doesn't matter. That would be great. Where we didn't need to worry about money. Can you imagine? Even like the richest of people, I've read that, like, I was actually listening to, I used to watch a show, or it was like a podcast called Dig Nation. You've probably never heard of it, right?
I know.
You have. Way back in the day. Like, there used to be a website called Dig that, like, used to fight it out with Reddit to be like, which website's more popular. And then Reddit sort of won. And Dig has become nothing. But the guy who started Dig, I think he ended up selling it at some point. And he's now a venture capitalist, so he like invests in software ideas and those kind of things in Silicon Valley. That's what he does for a living now. And he says that like essentially he has enough money from the sale of Dig, which he sold for like millions of dollars back in the day. Either that or he held on to it. I could have sworn he sold it though. But he now like spends all this time investing, and he said that the most valuable commodity for him, he doesn't even think in terms of money anymore, is how do I get more time? And most really rich people, they just essentially use their money to secure more time, so that if it's something that can be done by paying for it, they do that if it gives them more time. So for example, like a rich person's going to pay an accountant to handle all their finances so they don't have to sit and pay bills at night. Because why? Because I mean, sitting and paying bills is something that takes what, like 5-10 minutes, and that 5-10 minutes is something he could spend going and talking to somebody, or like going on a trip somewhere. I mean, washing clothes. Somebody's a maid. He got all the just normal stuff around the house. He just pays somebody to do. Because it doesn't make a lot of sense when and think about it, when you get home, you really just want to spend time with your family. You end up doing all this crap, and you don't get to spend time with your family, and then that itself becomes something that makes it hard to like, because you get angry at each other for like how much work you just literally have to do, and it sucks. So like, I feel like if money just wasn't a thing, that would be phenomenal. Like, we didn't have to worry about it if we just wandered around. But like, I mean, to what degree is that sustainable? Is that possible in society? And like, I watched a video the other day. It was like a guy talking about AI and how essentially AI is going to make all manual labor jobs go away. Like anything that somebody has to do with their hands, machines will just end up doing it better and faster. And that's why they want it, is because, I mean, you're not going to have to pay for somebody's insurance. There's not going to be anybody like being bad on the job. The best example is self-driving trucks. Like, that's going to get rid of 2 million jobs, because computers won't fall asleep. Computers won't, cut their fingers off. They won't reach underneath the dash and disable that thing that checks how many miles they go.
Well, they already have in some places where
They won't text while driving, get drunk while driving.
computers have replaced cashiers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are making us work.
Well,
Who in this room does not, every chance that you can go to the self-checkout, doesn't go to the self-checkout?
I just like go to Walmart and just watch.
I love it, and I go like for like 10, maybe 20 things, and I think literally we've started not going and getting a bunch of groceries just so we can always use the self-checkout. Because it's on my own pace, and that lady's not going to bag my crap wrong. Because they're always like, what's this, shampoo and cheese? Boom. And I'm like, they don't go in the same room.
Well, now they only put one checker in Walmart anyways for that 20 items or less aisle. Like, now that's the only aisle that has a checker in it.
And that always takes longer. If I just go to the self-checkout, I'm there so
I don't
fast.
know. I rarely go like full on grocery
I hate
shopping, but even in the instances that I do, I still self-checkout. Like,
Oh, yeah. The store.
I don't even go to the self-checkout.
Like, if I was
I
rich,
order 'em
I would
online.
pay somebody.
Yeah, which is even faster.
I like to
And they
walk-
put them in my car.
Yeah.
I like to
to
walk
have
in,
all
get
of my-
groceries,
You don't
find
even have to
somebody
put it in your car. They do
in the aisle. And I'm like, excuse me.
We buy like a lot of canned vegetables. My wife doesn't want dented cans. And also fresh veggies and stuff. She's like, I want to pick every single one of those, so she's never going to try to pick up.
My fresh veggies
That's how my grandma is.
But that's a separate trip.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
No, my grandma, she ordered online pickup, and she she ordered it for a time that she could go and pick out her own fruits and veggies, and then pulled up to the side so that they pick up. So
That's
that
really
they
fun.
can load
So she went and shopped
everything.
first, then she pulls around back, and like she gets the
Uber's
food.
open up, and you're like, you were just in the store.
So,
What's all this stuff? Did you just come in here? Like,
maybe.
this was so nice.
That's when I'd be like, that's none of your business.
But the thing is, too, like all of us, aren't we? All of us are making, we're making like financial decisions and things, and doing things where we don't have to interact with people if we can help it.
It's not that I don't want to interact, it's just all of a sudden.
It's so much faster and easier.
Oh no, I don't want to interact.
I like bull.
It just makes things so much faster and easier. But the whole point of that is like all these jobs like that are just that really don't necessarily need people for, that you can get machines to do, are going to go away. And the only jobs that will really exist anymore will be the people who are doing lots of intense creative thinking. Basically, your dads won't have jobs anymore. Whatever they do now is generally probably working with their hands, doing something, going to a factory, that kind of. Not everybody, but the vast majority of people's fathers do those kinds of jobs, and they just won't anymore. I mean, they've already started creating like self-driving lawnmowers. That's my dad's job. Granted, that's a little scarier because it's got cutting blades on the bottom. But an idiot with a lawnmower could run over somebody on accident and not realize it because he's listening to his iPod.
Or
Whereas a
run over
machine will have a sensor that senses somebody coming and just stop.
Or run over. What about the?
And then when it's done, it keeps
that
going.
runs into a problem because, like, will the self-driving lawnmower be able to avoid, running over the plants? In
It'll be
this
just
planet?
like
Because that's pretty much a given.
Just be like self-driving
Just
car.
like the vacuum. The
Vacuum?
You know, the little vacuum that rolls around your house, and
Uh-huh.
like if it bumps into a chair, it turns around and.
And then it goes to charge itself, right? Yeah, but a lawnmower, if the lawnmower bumps into like a sapling, it's just gonna run it over. Like I'm talking like a foot tall, just planet.
No, because I mean, if you've got, I mean, tiny sapling maybe, but like if you've got something up, there'll probably be some kind of markers you can put out for the mower to not run over certain things.
Hydrangeas, when you first plant them, they're really small.
Wait, I'm just going over this.
They have self-driving tractors too. Oh my god!
I'm just going over this because we planted a hydrangea and somebody was kind of running over it. And I was pissed. So that's fine.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, the self-driving mower could figure out how to just not do that. You literally could probably just put a marker flag in the yard, like where the tree is, and it just will go like a Roomba. You know, just think of a Roomba with blades. And the thing is too, like when you're on a mower, what do? You got a mower and you're walking and it's going, it's self-driving, and you're like, is that a stick? Yeah, because you're like, I don't want to stop. But the self-driving, it doesn't have to worry about time. It's just like however long it takes. I mean, it can take if it wants to 4 hours. If a kid comes and lays down in the yard and goes, you can't mow now, it's just gonna wait. And then when the sun goes down, and you can say, well, not the sundown. I want only during these hours. And maybe that kid can do it for a little while, but he's not gonna do it forever. And the mower's not gonna be pissed when it has to go. It just start going. Okay, let's move this fast. We'll make it through. And it doesn't care. Like, but people get pissed about things, and people do stupid stuff. And let's drink some beer while we mow. I don't know. It's just no. But the whole reason I'm talking about all this stuff is to talk about how the world is sort of getting toward those time-saving inventions, and because it's getting rid of like the menial jobs we used to do, and since the Industrial Revolution, we've been essentially told that work is our purpose. But what if after the jobs are gone, work no longer is our purpose? Maybe the world will look more like it does for Donald.
Well, I mean,
where what you do is just pursue ideas, and that's all. Yeah, he's trying to find meaning, and Pete's like, I don't care about meaning. I find meaning in my leather seats.
Right.
And they look great, and they smell great.
Not anymore.
Yeah, now they smell like orange soda. Yeah. But see, I'm not the kind of guy like Pete where I would lease a car. You could tell like he's either a leaser or like he's already sold the old one. It wasn't anything wrong with it. Like I'm more the guy who's going to drive a car to death, but I sympathize with like certain things. Like technology is very important to me.
So yeah, like I replace my technology pretty often, but I've had my car.
It's already old technology. Technology is old.
The moment you buy it.
Oh, okay.
This is not that old. But I got it a little bit cheaper because it was slightly old. But
No, it just offended him.
But like you can control it.
I take it very seriously.
I mean, but
Yeah, I let that one go
I'm fixing
for.
to have to replace my computer. I've had it for 4 years.
In fact, that one still works fine. It just every once in a while shuts itself off. I don't know why. So I can't have that happen in the middle of a
Mine
class.
does that too. Like mine, when I turn it on, it'll try to load, and then it won't, so I'll have to like manually restart it. And one time I turned it on and the Wi-Fi wouldn't work, so I went and bought a dongle, and now it works just fine, no problem.
Yeah, I can't abide that. I have to have it be good and in working order. And radios.
I forget where, but it's somewhere in the US. I started delivery robots. So,
Oh yeah.
and people were destroyed.
Well, they have drones, don't they?
They could just make more.
Yeah, they have delivery drones.
No, I think they were like little cars. Like little robots on the ground. And moving on like the sidewalks.
The sad thing is, let's say that they destroy half of them all the time. They're still cheaper. It's still cheaper than paying a guy to wander from door to door. Oh yeah, mailmen will be gone.
So
What?
What are people going to do for jobs?
They won't. That's the thing that's hard to understand. Is people essentially nobody's probably in here watched Star Trek. Does anybody watch Star Trek?
Yeah.
I watched Star Trek: The Next Generation. It's a good time, Liz. But essentially, in Star Trek, what happens is, far in the future, everybody's needs are provided for. They no longer have to work for them. Essentially, like the world just sort of sustains people's needs, so that they just sort of pursue what they want to pursue. And the reason Star Trek is essentially like most people on Star Trek, because they realize it's basically the only interesting thing they can even show in a universe like that, is the people who are the captains and the people on these ships that go and explore the universe. The rest of the people are just on Earth and like, what do you want to do? You want to home make wine? Do it. You want to spend all your time reading? Do it. You don't have to have a job. but you're provided for. You have a place to sleep. You have food to eat all the
There are a
time.
lot of people that want to explore like a bunch of different cultures and languages. And
Yeah,
if
and
you
they're
get out there
afforded
for
that.
work, like me, I want to learn a lot of languages, but also I don't because I don't have time.
Right, because we don't have time. In a reality where Donald, that might be a reality in which Donald could actually thrive, and Pete would have no idea what the hell he's doing. Where, like, I want to work so I can earn things. So, like, you've already earned everything. You don't have to work.
Like so, even on the days like that, I don't necessarily have to work. Like, so I just had 4 days off,
Yeah.
and I had nothing to do. I finished all my school, and I had nothing to do. I was bored out of my mind, and I hated it. Like, I have to go somewhere every day.
So I think that they could find ways of making. There are things they could find for people to do over time. I mean, the needs always get filled over time. People figure out what a need is, and they just kind of fill that.
I
need.
guess I have to start working.
I mean, there probably will be a segment of there'll probably be everybody will like essentially like
Maybe we'll just be super fit.
there'll be like health training and
Oh my
stuff.
god, obesity would be awesome.
I mean, they could make it like that. I think that in fact, I think there was something that kept people from getting obese in that future.
It'd either get worse or it would get better.
Where it was essentially like anything that you. No.
I'm not even kidding. There are some people
about creating this field that in which you are actually getting all the nutrients that you need every day, so you don't have to eat. Just take the pill.
I mean, think about here radios. Tell me your stand first.
I'm sorry.
Have you seen Detroit Come Home? Anything like that?
Is it a game?
Yes.
No, I haven't seen it. Is it an AI based or something?
It's a future where robots are everywhere
Uh-huh.
and they're taking over jobs. It's kind of thinking. I thought of like a future event like that, but even like even before, like there was one guy who was a single father and their house was terrible, but they still had like a robot.
Is that the game where the robots start a revolution?
Yes.
Yeah, I know what game. That game is. You need to get it. The graphics are super weird. It's
You don't have to
so
get
crazy.
it. Just like watch somebody play. Like
Oh yeah. You can look it up on YouTube. Like you should get it because it's good.
Well, the weird thing is they always make like robots anthropomorphized. That's not what they're gonna be. Like there's no unless it's a service bot like in Big Hero 6 where like it
The robots in these games
How can
are
I
like
care for you?
humans. Like the only way you can tell they're robots is because they have a little circle.
Oh.
That lights up. Like it's crazy. It's crazy.
like it might be a fun game, but I mean, I really don't think that
I don't know that it is.
I don't think the world is going to end up like that. But we very well end up in a situation where jobs aren't necessary.
I
But
want to say I brought it up to you last semester, but about AI. No, I didn't bring it up to you. They've made an AI that looks like a woman.
oh yeah, I've seen that.
It's super
But I mean, the thing is, it's not even necessary. Like I mean, you don't have to do that.
No, like the machines we have right now, they don't look like people, but they do people work.
Yeah, they do people work, but they don't have to look like people. In fact, it's probably better that they don't.
Yeah.
Yes.
not all the robots look like humans though. It's
Oh.
like you could
I haven't explored that.
like there was a tablet that was basically like a piece of paper that you could read everything on. TV was touchscreen and could be seen on basically every screen and stuff like that. The only thing that looked like humans were like one type of robot.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds just like this.
So like if you had a maid, like someone who did all of your cooking and your cleaning and all of that, it was stuff like that. For at home people.
Well, I'm curious.
Or elderly people had robots to take care of.
Let's just for like hypothetically, just say that there were no jobs and nobody was making any more. I mean, but your needs were cared for. I mean, do you feel like the purpose of people is to work?
Yeah.
Like, do you feel like that's just what our purpose is? Like to have a job specifically for capitalist purposes where it earns somebody money? Or like you just have a goal or like something that you try to make happen? Like you feel like you want to, do you think like it's people's purpose to have a function in society? Or do you think it's more important, like do you think literally people need to work and earn money? And
No,
that's what they're
function
purpose.
in society. You have to have some meaning in your life. Some business.
But I would agree there.
Like what I said,
that we could pursue all the things that we don't have time for today because we have to work to earn money to live. Well, if we didn't have to do that, then we could go at home and like create all kinds of wines, or we could learn all these languages. Like we could pursue the things that we actually want to pursue because we wouldn't have to worry about money. All our needs.
The idea of work is just, you grow up with it, or your parents tell you, well, you have to go to school first because you have to work later. So it's kind of like an idea that you get into it, but you don't born with it.
I don't think that education is prepared to handle if that ever becomes a reality, at least not right now. Because really all education is lately, it's just to get you a job. Mm-hmm. Every one of you is here in this room so that you can someday get a job.
My brother went to Baylor for 5 years, and he basically, he told me he thinks education is a waste now because it doesn't guarantee you a job. And basically what happens is you just get into student debt, and they want to give you all these loans and everything, but then you can't get a job to pay them off. So but then they tell you that, oh no, go get your, we'll pay for all of your school and everything. You have to pay it back. But they encourage people to do that.
Like my mom, she didn't go to college, but she has a job where she makes really good money.
Right.
And she tells me all the time, like, you need to go to school because right now, most jobs won't hire you unless you have an education.
Mm-hmm. See, that's the thing. Like the job that I plan on doing, my sister-in-law's mom, she just got promoted above the person who has a degree, and she doesn't have any college, and she's making more and getting more benefit.
I think it's education. You know what the purpose of education used to be? Like, what Oxford, like, originally, when people went to Oxford, like, what they became, like, what they did.
Like, literature.
Huh?
Like, just to learn literature and...
was it more culture-based?
Yes, more to culture.
Yes, it was culture-based. It was learning, essentially, and most people who ended up going to Oxford, and by the way, it was all men. There were no women at the time. But people who went to Oxford, essentially, like, if you didn't take a job in, like, Parliament or something, you became clergy. You became, like, a preacher somewhere. Most people who pursued an education just pursued it because you wanted to essentially learn as much as you can. Where, I know this is crazy, but the goal of education was to become educated. It changed once the Industrial Revolution started, and people started realizing that the people who had gotten an education voluntarily somehow became the most thoughtful and ethical workers.
But now we just do
and so it used to be that the need, like, essentially companies and work in general, because they needed good workers, started sending people to education because they noticed those people became the best workers. But now it's flipped, where essentially people are using education as a way to train workers, and that's not what its goal is supposed to be. It was supposed to be to provide an educated citizenry. And originally the whole idea of public education in the United States was so that you'd have more informed voters. That was the whole point, was so that you didn't have people electing essentially a king, somebody who was going to become a tyrant. And it's not used that way anymore. I think it's totally possible. We could end up electing a Hitler easily because nobody knows anything anymore. Nobody feels the need to. Oh, I can look that up on Google. I can look up Hitler on Google, so I don't have to know like what all that was like. And that's why it's very possible.
Yeah, because I was planning on going and getting like my master's and all that, and now I'm not doing that at all. I'm just getting the basics and then
I'd say that if we're talking about what like I say, an Oxford education used to be, it's probably closer to being in like grad school, because essentially in grad school, the way it works is instead of having like a bunch of different classes you have to take, and it's all part of there's a collection of different classes you can take, and you pick based on your focus, and the whole point of your focus is so that you can do the research that becomes the final document that you write, like your dissertation or your master's thesis is what it's called. Master's thesis is like 35 to 50 pages, whereas a doctoral thesis, a dissertation, is like 120 to 140.
Advantage
for a dissertation, yeah.
What's a dissertation?
Or for a PhD.
Oh.
A master's degree usually involves
science.
a master's thesis, although you can do something called like a 595 paper, where it's just like an expanded paper. It's not like a thesis technically, and a dissertation you have to defend in front of a group of people. So like, essentially, you wrote the whole thing. You have to be really knowledgeable about it, and then when they start asking you questions as to its validity, you're able to sit there and
It's
answer
almost
them.
like does everybody that goes for master's degree do that?
Technically last. It's almost
Not everybody has to do it in master's thesis, but everybody at dissertation does.
It's an
For
in-depth
PhD.
research paper. Like our research paper only had to be 8 pages. Their research paper.
And but see, that's again the problem. That's the problem of the way people approach education at the bachelor's level. Because everybody who writes papers, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody who writes papers at the bachelor's level, right? That's what you are right now, associates and bachelors. As an undergrad, when you write a paper, you're just writing a paper to get a grade and then move on, correct?
Yep.
The point of every paper you write, every paper in grad school, is meant to make you more knowledgeable in your fields so that you don't just write a paper to get a grade. You're supposed to know the things that you're researching and remember them, and then later you write your big thing. And then you're able to defend it because it's not that you wrote papers to get grades along the way. It's that you literally were studying to do this defense your entire graduate degree. So the point in graduate school is to literally know the thing you're learning. I know it sounds insane. Not just to get a grade, but to literally know what it is you're learning. And
So it's stuff that interests you, essentially.
yeah, so you have to go into an area like that really interests you so that you will know.
So that's
yeah.
science here. I'm just getting my associates in biology here. But yeah, I mean, I took biology 2 years ago, and I basically remember everything that ever happened in biology.
Yeah. The stuff that really strikes your fancy, you tend to remember.
I mean, as long as the teacher makes the class interesting, I feel like I remember it. Like, even if it's not something that, like, I hate history and I hate English, but the courses that I've taken here, I remember a good deal about it. So, it's all, to me, it's all the teacher. Like, they have to make the class interesting. They have to make the subject interesting.
There's nothing worse for education than a bad teacher.
But I also enjoy learning. Like,
That's very true.
Like, I also enjoy learning and everything. Like, I'll go learn and do stuff myself.
Yeah, I really think that that's the key. Like, I mean, I hear about like.
Like, if I could go to school for the rest of my life and get paid for it, I would.
Oh yeah, it's super fun. It's super fun.
Like, that's what I would.
Yeah. But nobody will pay you for it. That's
No, I know. So I can't do that.
I mean, technically, you could go to school every day, but you would have to get.
Like,
Yeah, no.
I literally think, and this is how I'm actually going to bring all this back, is I literally think that for only like the last 200 years ish has the world really been everybody's more like Pete. Where like the people, like you essentially, a lot of people identify with a Pete. It's one of the reasons that I don't think we've had any like really great like classic authors recently, is because I don't know how to say this. The people who wrote the classics before, they were essentially almost always from rich families. They weren't orphans.
They had time.
They had time. They had nothing but time. So that when people have nothing but time to pursue what they find important to them, you become creative and you're able to produce those things. And it really sucks, but like now essentially we have people who are trying to write classic literature who come from a poor background and still have to work. And you're not afforded the time to just always think about what's intriguing or important about life, or like creatively. We don't have time to creatively think. And that's the reason why it is almost all rich white guys who wrote the classics, and why it's actually so good. Yeah, if we had instead, like, all the African Americans who came over just immediately gained power and they were all rich, and then, like, all the whites were subservient forever, like, you'd have nothing but really great literature written by the kids of African Americans whose parents were rich and they just kind of got to sit around and not really do anything. Because when you literally are just pursuing nothing but one thing all the time, that's what ends up happening, is you end up getting this. And a lot of times too, it's these people who just voluntarily did great things, like who just like, you got Wordsworth and Coleridge are like friends. They're the greatest poets probably of their age, and they kind of talk together a lot. They just kind of hung out. How do you even identify that these days? You got like 2,000 people who all say, I'm a writer. And so you can't even figure out who's the good one, because everybody's just so desperately trying to be a writer when they all went through school and went through a writing program. And that didn't happen with Wordsworth and Coleridge. They just decided, I'm going to just keep reading stuff until there's nothing left to read and then write at the same time. I mean, John Keats was one of those too. He hung out with Percy Shelley and Lord Byron, and they all just wrote, and they were impressed by what each other wrote. But it all came. It's so like what we need again is time, and we just don't have it anymore. It feels like, and we're told from like education even that your whole purpose in getting an education is to get a job, and it shouldn't be. It never was. That's only a recent phenomenon in the whole of human history where we've had education. I mean, it's maybe the last 10% of the time we've had formal education has been just geared toward work, which is kind of crazy. Yes?
Okay, I kind of want to say something. Like you can see a trend in how we teach kids, because like when you go to kindergarten, you're teaching kids how to read and write, and they're excited about learning, it's fun, and they're like doing up stuff and reading by themselves because they just want to.
Mm-hmm.
And in third grade, they ask you what you want to be, and kids say like soccer player, and they're like, oh, that's nice, and it's great. But then like you hit middle school, and people are like, you have to get a job, you have to.
And then they start making you
you
take career tests to find out what's right for you. I mean, they start training you.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many career tests I took in middle school when I had no idea what I was doing.
What was it? There was a guy who talked about education. His name was Ken Robinson. He did like a TED Talk, and he said, I think he quoted in there, he quoted like Picasso, where he said like all kids are artists, and then they're educated out of it. Mm-hmm. Essentially, everybody could be something
Maybe that's
great.
why we lose our imagination.
Yeah, I mean, there's no room for imagination in work. I mean, all of schooling the way it works now is essentially you're rewarded for falling in line. The people who win education are the ones who follow the rules, do everything line by line, and that's essentially what they want out of good workers too, right? You're not supposed to fail. Failing is stigmatized. If you try something out, like if you were to write one of my papers and be like, screw what he said on there, I'm going to go my own way and do something entirely different than what he asked for. Maybe you would end up writing something great, but essentially the way I grade them, I would be like, well, you didn't do the things I asked for. Good paper, but way off topic. And it's just even making mistakes is stigmatized. And I know it's terrible to say that I even do that, but that's why I try to not so much stigmatize mistakes by like, if you take a chance, you can always revise at least, instead of me saying, well, here's your grade. You should. And then there's some teachers who are like, well, you made some typos. That's going to haunt you forever. Good luck keeping your GPA up. I have trouble abiding that kind of teaching.
Yeah, but they make it's not teaching. Like harder and harder for the kids each year. Because like now, the kids are in say first grade, they're doing stuff that we were doing in like sixth grade.
Yeah.
And they just keep making it harder and harder and harder on kids. When I mean they should just be kids. I mean they're still learning, but you're just putting way too much pressure on them at a very young age.
It was crazy, but they found that student performance at a school improved when they gave recess back to the kids. There was one school like that had no recess, and they said like the student grades were failing. They were like, we already got rid of recess, so we can up the test scores. And they were like, give it back. And they gave it back, and like their test scores started going up again because the kids need to play.
My daughter has 2 recesses.
That's good.
Well, just me, like when I like go home to do all of my work or whatever, and it takes me, and I do like 7 hours of just sitting at the computer doing my stuff. Like I find that the quality of my stuff goes down because I've just been sitting there staring at it and working on it forever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like my brain just stops working out. But anyways, I mean,
That's what they say. No,
like back
the class that really weird classes you just have to go to learn how to.
Learning framework.
That's right.
Yeah.
Smaller.
That's what. I was about to say learning functions.
same thing.
That's what they say in there, like that you shouldn't spend too much time on it because then, like, the quality of it goes down.
And they always say that.
On the homework and studying and stuff.
They always say that, like, when you write a paper, to give yourself 24 hours before it's due to be able to read over it again.
Yeah.
Like, sleep on it, basically. But back to the mistake thing, like, when teachers don't give you a chance to redeem yourself and correct mistakes, you just can't learn. That's the whole learning.
This is good on there.
But yeah, we don't have a whole lot of time left to talk about.
social. Right?
Yeah, we do. But the whole idea, I think, with this works really great in the Industrial Revolution. I wonder if 100 years from now, this story would make sense to people who are reading it. They're like, why is Donald made out to be the bad guy? Because you can tell when reading it, it kind of is. He is. So you said so.
I'm having a lot of trouble with my paper.
With a critical evaluation? I'm going to spend a significant portion of next week actually talking about how to do that. I know. I do that on purpose because I want to show you essentially. I always want people to do that. I want people to experiment with it. Yeah. I mean,
I can't even get a good thought
I
process.
can't
Like,
even
I have a
get
good
a
idea, but I don't know how to elaborate.
Exactly.
Like, you'll be lucky
That's
to
my
get.
problem.
You'll be lucky to get a page from
Okay,
and
so
that'll be with me struggling with bullshit.
So that's
A lot of bullshit. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
what I did.
Yeah.
So like it might sound like a lot of.
Like
I might type a lot of letters.
Like,
I might type a lot of words.
I don't even know how to begin it. I don't even know. Like, did that work out? Because it's not product.
well, I think what we'll have to do is so I feel like the readings for next week, I mean, it'd be great if we had a chance to talk about them, but I feel like a lot of people need the help on the paper. So what I'll probably just end up doing is, at least from the beginning of the week, I'll start just talking about the research. And really, I think the most important thing about being able to do it well is trying to understand what the story's overall purposes are. What now?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay. Trying to understand what the story's overall purposes are, and then moving toward how it achieves that stuff.
So you think it's appropriate to kind of like take our line by next week at least? Like having a specific line that we want to use for that?
Yeah, you may even wait until after you've seen me talk the first time before you try to choose. I mean, maybe if you want to try to do it over the weekend, you can give it a shot.
I was gonna write
And you can watch the videos that I had from last semester over how to do it as well if you want to see them before we talk about it.
I mean, because essentially, like, if you're talking about what we're going to talk about next Tuesday, it's due next Thursday.
Yeah, let me pull up real quick. So now we got 5 minutes left, but that's enough time for me to hook up the computer and show you where this is.
I mean, I don't know. I'm like one of those people that likes to make stuff great the first time.
Yeah, I am too. Like I would like to show you, like, if you wanted to go ahead and get a head start on the critical evaluation this weekend, something you could do is go over here to Blackboard. Oh wait, I guess this Wi-Fi is not really working very well. Let's do that. Hopefully that'll help.
I just feel like the sample making was really, really, really good.
Yeah, it is.
I'll be able to do that.
It's so good because I feel like it's good in a way that people could do, though. I think that's what's so good about it. Is just the degree to which she stretches her mind to think about things the story could be doing.
It's just the stories we've read lately. I don't think I would be able to. Other than the notes. Oh, the only one, and that's the one I've chosen. But
Oh yeah, here we go. So lesson videos, I would suggest like not doing this semester's because that updates as I have classes. But if you went to the spring class, I'm pretty sure that if we go down to like, I think it's week 4, let's see, setting, point of view, symbolism, theme, style, tone, irony. Yeah, here we go. So there's one day where I'm talking about symbolism and style, tone, irony, and theme. So I've got that up, and I'm essentially talking about symbolism for a little bit, but then where's the important part? Where's the important bit? Come on. Here we go. And I get to talking about the theme, style, tone, irony, PowerPoint, and then we kind of get to the end of that. I guess it mostly happens in the next class. And so I start talking about what theme is, and I probably will just talk about that in class because I think it's important. And it's essentially like having a thesis for a story. That's what a theme is. It's not like the theme is sports or the theme is finances. Theme is like a thesis for a story. Like, and there can be more than one in a story. But if we go to the critical evaluation lesson here, which is the next class.
All right, we're recording.
Which I may actually do as the first lesson next week. I actually will read through a very small short story. Then we'll take a look at literary elements and things to look at when trying to find theme, and like maybe establish what it's trying to say. Then from there, I'll ask like, what do we think about the story? Kind of look at that. Look at this little story here. All kinds of different methods of kind of approaching it to where, and then I say like, how should you choose a story? Like, what's your goals there? Like, how to pick a small piece, what to look for, the piece that I pick, and then how I approach it, and then how that might result in a thesis and an introduction. So I'm going to take us, and then like some differences between synthesis analysis and critical evaluation, so we don't make the mistake of doing the same things over and again. But that's something you could watch. Like, what was that? Do you see that? Is that new on YouTube? What? So it's not playing, is it? So like that lesson right there, English 1302, Spring 2018, Week 5, Day 2, with popular mechanics and planning a critical. That would be maybe if you wanted some time over the weekend, like you could just kind of have that playing while you're sitting and like thumbing through your textbook to find a sentence, and then as it says something, you go, okay, well let me maybe go find something. It may even be easier to kind of skip to the end and look at my suggestions for how to find one. Huh? Then just watch it from the beginning and see like, because it's a very, very tiny short story, like story of an hour that I read real quick, and then we talk about it, and I kind of approach it the way I would if I was actually writing a paper, so that you can kind of see the whole thought process.
Because I showed you my sentence, and you said, I mean, that would be something that could do.
Yeah.
You didn't sound very well.
Maybe not. I can't remember. It didn't have the word guilt in it.
It did.
Yeah, that's all I remember, because I think that's the only word I thought you could really do something with.
But like, see, that's the thing. Like, I wouldn't break up. See, I'm finding things that I can't break up word for word. I'm just tying it into like this is. Never mind.
Well, he said he doesn't want it to be like the sample paper where she broke it word for word, right?
No, it can't. That's the easiest way to do it. I was just saying you don't have to use her exact wording from the paper, nor do you have to use the exact same literary elements that she does. She concentrates on setting and symbolism and foreshadowing, and you don't have to do those things. You can pick whatever you think helps make sense in the story.
So you can only do symbolism if you want to, and not use it.
Yeah, y'all are going to have to write a paper where you do foreshadowing, setting, and symbolism like she does.
I mean, you just told us to find a phrase or a word or something that kind of ties in the whole story, and that's what I've done. But I can't break mine up into different things word for word and analyze like that sentence and like how it ties.
Yeah, you might have to approach it in a different way. How this sentence,
like this thing, just ties into the whole idea of the story, basically.
I would say watch this one early, because it gives me, it's basically like a whole hour and 15 minutes of instruction of me saying things that might help you with that. Because like like right in this moment, it's hard. But like next week, I'll also do it again, so that if you watch the video, then you'll get a different kind of flavor of the same instructions next week, and then it might kind of help if you need to make any changes. Y'all have a good one.
I also have another question.